Hello and welcome to the Give Me the Remote podcast. It's episode 49 and it is Tuesday, the 10th of September. I'm Sheridan and I'm joined in the pod by John.
Hello everyone. What year is it, Sheridan?
It's 2019.
There we go.
I'm not very good at the intros.
Yeah, we're working on them.
I think it adds a little bit of banter at the beginning though.
A modicum of banter, yes. Because people don't like it when we fight.
Oh.
Well, some people don't. I reckon some people do. Why would they listen to it? Not that we ever really fight in this anyway. So, hello everyone. Sorry about the little hiatus we've had, but we are back now, and I hope you enjoy our insights. We had quite a bit of feedback on the last one from people who don't think climate change is man-made. And,
did we? I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, guys, you're wrong. You're just stooges for billionaires. Wise up.
Wow.
Take some action.
That's going to create some feedback.
I
want
to just say, I was climate skeptic longer than I should have been. And the thing that finally made the scales fall off my eyes was realising that everyone who's pushing the climate skeptic line in a serious way, is being paid by coal billionaires.
That is true. But we were just reviewing the David Attenborough documentary.
Which was asking people to wake up and...
Yeah.
You know. And I say, wake up. Watch David Attenborough. Don't take my word for it. David, you trust. He's the most trustworthy man on the planet. Listen to him.
He probably would rate us one of the most trustworthy people on the planet.
Oh, in the English-speaking world, anyway.
Yes. Sorry, you're right. All right. So, what are we going to start off reviewing first?
I think we should tackle Longshot.
Is the Secretary of State looking at us?
I kind of know her.
It's like kind of knowing a mermaid. Do you tell people that?
She probably doesn't remember who I am. Secretary Field would like to speak with you.
Longshot. Seth Rogen vehicle.
Charlize
Theron.
I was going to say Charlize Theron vehicle as much as the Seth Rogen vehicle.
Well, he produced, I think, wrote and...
Okay, fair enough.
I think she produced it as well, to be fair. But Charlize Theron's just... Is there anything she can't do?
I just find it amazing. She just gets prettier and prettier.
I know.
And it's been, 20 odd years since she first burst onto the scene.
And I don't think she's had plastic surgery.
Well, whatever she's had, it's been very subtle and effective.
Because I don't think she's really tackled a rom-com before.
No.
She's done comedy.
Yeah. And I actually think... I had a lot of reservations going into this. I thought it could be bad, but the trailer was surprisingly good, which is why we decided to give it a go.
So story is Charlize Theron is Secretary of State.
So basically a young, hot Hillary Clinton.
High-flying politician.
Mm.
Personal life in a bit of shambles, though.
Mm. Well, zero personal life because she is in a very high-intensity professional life, yeah.
Seth Rogen is a journalist.
In what I have to say is the best depiction of life as a modern journalist. The bit at the start, I think I've seen it. That was actually quite on point.
Left-wing journalist. Paper gets bought out by a Rupert Murdoch type. And he quits and goes to an event and somehow... he basically reconnects with his high school babysitter who is Charlize Theron. And... romance ensues.
Yeah, I mean, I would say she more reconnects with him. She makes the effort.
That's true.
Because he, rightly enough, is like, I am a miserable, unemployed slob, and there's, I'm not going to bother her. And also, a woman of her stature is the sort who's going to make the running with lots of things, isn't she?
Mm.
So I thought it was really sweet the way this handled, much better than I expected it would, the difficulties of a relationship between a high-powered woman and a pretty low-powered dude.
Yeah, look, it didn't do it absolutely perfectly for
I'm
me.
not saying it's perfect.
But it was pretty good.
Better than anything I think I've seen before try and tackle the subject.
Better than anything mainstream, I think.
Yeah, are you thinking of anything in particular?
No, but I haven't thought about it, so I just want to leave that there.
But a surprisingly good treatment of a subject that doesn't get dealt with much, but as the world changes, mostly for the better, and there are more and more high-powered women in the world, like Maureen Dowd in the New York Times has written numerous columns about how tough it is that she feels the only basic man who is her equal in stature would be the president of France. And he's got a lot of choice in the women variety. Not about Emmanuel Macron in particular, but just saying, when you're on the editorial board of the New York Times as a, at the time, moderately still youngish woman, there just aren't a lot of dudes. If you still feel that, which a lot of women do, the need to find a partner who's more successful than they are.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I did like about this is ultimately there was no discussion that she would have to give up her career in any way to be with him.
No, in fact, he was going to give up his career for her, but
well,
his career was in the garbage bin, so...
Possibly the one thing that I didn't like about it is when this trope happens the opposite way, which is how it usually happens, with the pretty woman example.
Well, a prostitute.
Well, if the story is, the age-old Cinderella taken from the gutter for the prince,
okay.
that's all Pretty Woman is. And this is just...
The sex work was a bit of a twist.
Okay,
sure.
But it's a twist on the fairy tale concept.
Yeah, the rescued, the down on the luck woman rescued by the prince. Yeah.
So what always happens in those stories when the gender is flipped is that the woman does ultimately have to change, whereas in this, he didn't have to change.
He had to change a bit.
Hardly at all. So when he becomes the...
We are immutable, Sheridan. We cannot be changed.
When he becomes the first man, he was basically allowed to go out wearing his 80s tracksuits and going to raves and acting like a typical...
I think those 80s tracksuits are they're actually a hipster fashion on point thing. I'm seeing
they totally are. It's normcore.
Yeah. Well,
there's a name for it. It's called normcore.
Yeah, but normcore used to be wearing a beige jumper and now they're wearing rayon purple tracksuits. So, that's not really normcore, that's something else.
Well, it is a trend. There's quite a few other good things to like about this though. There's a lot of references that they're really obvious references, but there's something quite nice about a film that's making a reference, and when you get it, you feel a bit special. So, like the reference with the Rupert Murdoch press baron. The president is...
I thought he was more Summer Redstone, to be honest. But yeah, it's the obscene press baron, yeah.
Justin Trudeau with the Canadian president, who's played really well by...
Prime Minister, I believe.
Sorry, Prime Minister, you're right. Alexander Skarsgård, who somehow makes himself look ugly because he's a very handsome man. He does this thing in the... They must do something with like prosthetic teeth or something. Because he's still handsome, but there's something off about him in this. Which is, I think, what
they painted him quite sleazy. I would like to think Justin isn't that sleazy, but
no. And then the Donald
except
Trump...
when Melania's going all moist for him, but
and the Donald Trump reference. So the president's basically a Donald Trump. He's a former TV actor who...
Yeah, he's not a straight Trump analog.
No, it's not straight, but you get the...
There's some comparison.
I liked that it was all the referencing was quite contemporary and relevant. And it felt like you were kind of in on a bit of an in-joke.
Yeah. What else did I like? There was a big thing about destigmatization of masturbation, which I think... As a society, we've still got a little way to go, but I think a lot of progress has been made, and this film sort of nudges it along in that direction.
It's very well paced. There's a lot of really good scenes comedic scenes that cut it up well.
Yeah, lots of laughs. I think Seth Rogen is he's turning out, and I never would have guessed it 15 years ago when he first sort of appeared on the scene, as an interesting guy who can actually do interesting projects.
Well, I think too...
His acting's like the least appealing thing about him in some ways, but,
And he's stuck with comedy. Mainstream comedy. And he's actually making some pretty decent mainstream comedy, because there's not a lot of it around in feature film.
Would you say The Boys was a comedy?
That was a different kind of vehicle, though.
Sure, okay.
And it wasn't, like... mainly him, and that wasn't a feature film, which I was talking about feature films.
Okay, sure, but I'm just saying he's doing a lot more than just comedies. That's my point.
No, but what did he do on that again? Did he write it or he just produced it?
He was a producer. He had some writing credits. He had a very minor cameo acting in it.
Well, who was he in it again?
Oh, there was a scene that he was a on-screen cameo, sort of like on a TV screen in the background, sort of thing.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the feature films, he's sticking with the comedy and seems to be working out for him.
Yeah. But I would actually recommend seeking out his future works, which is something that he was in Superbad, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was a bit of a grim moment there with that. What was that one about the abortion? Knocked Up.
Katherine Heigl.
Yeah, the one where they didn't say the word abortion in the entire film.
Yeah. Well, that was the same period as Juno. There was a lot of very confused movie making around family planning at that time.
Anyway, what are you going to give it?
I think it's a solid 4 stars.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 4 stars.
Wow. Okay, cool. I mean, 4 stars is possibly a little on the high side, but there's no reason to give it a lower mark. It's a thoroughly entertaining vehicle that actually has some useful social messages in an entertaining package. Also proving you can present progressive messages in a way that's entertaining and not heavy-handed and boring.
I just want someone to find me a Charlize Theron movie where she's not acting well. In any genre now. She's doing the drama, she's doing the comedy, she's doing the rom-com. She's all over it.
She was the lead in Mad Max, wasn't she?
She's doing the action. See, everything. Everything. She does everything.
It's weird. Mad Max Fury Road was such a weird blip that people kind of keep negating its existence, even though it won, 7 Academy Awards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's because it wasn't really about the acting. It's about the visual...
Oh, the individual acting performances were not superb. But
and all the choreographed
Tom
scenes.
Hardy and Charlize Theron both turned in admirable performances.
Yeah, but I mean, Tom Hardy says like 3 words in the whole movie.
Which is why it's a great Tom Hardy movie, because the guy can't talk on screen. What's his other great role? Dunkirk, where he's got a mask over his shoulders. Also Bane in that Batman movie.
Right, really...
Tom Hardy's only good when he's not talking much. All right then. So what's next?
Let's go to the opposite end of good comedy and do The Hustle.
We're not nice women. We're con artists. We take money from small-minded men.
Oh my word.
So The Hustle is a remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I have to say is one of my all-time favourite comedies.
It's one of everyone's all-time favourite movies, which was the Michael
Well, I don't care. You know the reason why it is? Because it's really good. And if you rewatch it today, it holds up.
There are parts of it that I think are actually pretty banal. In particular, the Ruprecht scenes.
Ruprecht is the best bit!
Okay, but we're talking about the Steve...
Although, admittedly now, probably... not at all.
Yeah,
okay.
That's, what I'm saying. But we're talking about the Steve Martin, Michael Caine, con men in the south of France, competing for a while, joining forces. A real classic of 90s movie making.
Well, and actually, it was a remake of a 60s movie, so it wasn't even...
Didn't have to be, but Michael Caine and Steve Martin...
I think 90s? I was thinking late 80s. No, it probably was 90s.
Yeah, but... Caine and Martin at the height of their powers.
Yeah.
And we talked in one of our early episodes of this about the Steve Martin Short comedy special.
Yeah, that was...
There is just something, it's like aged champagne about Steve Martin, that it doesn't get old. It's not that cutting edge, but it's just very comforting and very amusing.
Yes.
And in this, we get none of that. So it's Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson, who I'm over, I'm done. Rebel Wilson plays the Steve Martin character.
Look, Rebel Wilson's best moments were for the international audience, there's an Australian very low budget TV show called Fat Pizza. And a very young Rebel Wilson played a fat Lebanese girl.
Did she play a Lebanese girl?
Yeah.
But how does she do that? She's white.
Well, that's... Skin's quite pale. She was wearing a brown frizzy wig, or she had brown frizzy hair.
Oh my god! So hang on, that's like blackface equivalent. Is that okay? I don't think that's okay.
Look, there's a lot of things that weren't okay about Fat Pizza on all sorts of levels. Although apparently there's a reunion coming. But she was awkward as hell playing the large girl who thinks she's sexy in that. But it works within the context of something where the sets were made out of cardboard and the acting and the writing were almost non-existent. I would say Fat Pizza had some characters that were very interesting that are almost never shown anywhere from the western suburbs of Sydney in Australia. And I'm quite a big fan of Fat Pizza, but it very low budget, low value kind of proposition. And I think that was the high point of Rebel Wilson's career. And everything else, it's pretty much can't get Amy Schumer, maybe give Rebel Wilson a go.
I don't even... She must be really hardworking and really easy to work with because they just keep chucking that same character out. And...
Yeah, and in this, I mean, Anne Hathaway feels like she's phoning it in.
Oh, ridiculously.
So Anne Hathaway's sort of a cardboard cutout of an attractive European con woman. But...
She has a really bad English accent too.
She changes accent a few times to do different things when she's putting on the Essex accent to bring the Essex women on side.
So the director of this film, though, is responsible for really good things like In the Thick of It and Skins.
Yeah, well, they've really screwed the pooch with this one.
So we rented it. And it was one of those, John hates it because basically I spent 3 hours watching previews and finally decided that we were in the mood for comedy and I didn't do a Rotten Tomatoes.
Until after we'd hit the rent button.
So I'd hit the rent button and it had like a Rotten Tomatoes score of 14% or something. And that's when you just know you're in trouble. I have to say, after seeing the reviews or the Rotten Tomatoes score, and then I was really thinking it was going to be way worse than what it was. It was pretty bad, but I thought it would be way worse. I didn't laugh out loud at any point.
Look, and there's just weird, awkward stuff. Like Rebel Wilson keeps making jokes about how much she loves anal sex.
Yeah.
That just... I don't know if that joke would work with anyone in particular.
Well, I don't think it works with her.
It certainly doesn't work with her. And like that in itself wouldn't kill the movie, but it's so leaden and lumpen and so obviously just a parody of something better. And on it, like, why not just watch Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
I have felt like doing that.
Although I would say the Ruprecht scenes in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels I don't think hold up anymore, and I thought were actually quite awkward even at the time. But were saved by a movie.
That bit though where he goes to the toilet at the table.
Yeah. But it was saved by a movie that was otherwise brilliant and charming. And this has.
And they recreate that with her, but it's really stupid the way they do it.
Yeah. Yeah, just appallingly bad, and I don't think 14% is a fair score because I think this is more sort of like a 2.5 movie. There's nothing great about it.
I'm giving it 1 star.
1 star, you're going that low because we did actually finish it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of phone googling.
Yeah,
a lot of Facebook time.
Yeah. Have you got anything else you want to say about it, or?
No.
Who was the dude who played the...
Alex Sharp.
Yeah, where's he from?
I don't know, actually. He's been in a few things. Let's Google him right now.
Oh, okay.
I could have Googled him while I was watching it. That would have been a more productive use of my time, wouldn't it?
Would have been far more useful for everyone.
Let's see. He has been in To the Bone, which is not a bad TV series. And not very much else.
Okay. He was the only one I felt was actually trying in this, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So good on Alex Sharp for giving it a shot.
He's a theatre actor, apparently.
I mean, I remember watching this, and we looked at each other, and I said, I would love to know, much more interesting than this movie would be hearing some honesty about how it got made.
Apparently he's going to be in the Game of Thrones prequel.
Well, that means nothing to me. Can we talk about this film?
Sorry, I was... Just got distracted Googling.
And your thoughts?
On the film?
No.
On what?
What I just said?
Well, I was actually reading. I'm sorry. I've really missed that. What did you say?
Never mind. Let's
Tell me,
move on.
you need to know. I'll have to go back and listen.
I was saying that I think that much more interesting than this movie would be an actual tell-all on how this movie got made.
Oh, I think that's probably a dull story too.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, someone ponied up at least $50 million.
Do you think that much?
Yeah, I mean, Anne Hathaway and wasn't coming that cheap. I mean, Rebel Wilson's definitely working cheap at the moment, but
yeah, she's definitely $21 million it cost.
All right, $21
and
million.
guess how much it made?
How much?
$95 million.
Well, aren't we the dummies?
So there's actually an executive in Universal Pictures that's like, everyone said that movie was shit, but I got a kick-ass bonus this year, bitches.
Yeah, what do we know? Wow. Okay. That's great business because box office take is a tiny fraction of what it makes by the time everyone watches on digital.
Yeah. Rebel Wilson definitely would have been cheap after that defamation lawsuit.
Well, she won the lawsuit.
Oh, but she didn't win very much money.
Sorry?
She didn't win very much. They cut down her damages, like, significantly on appeal.
The initial damages were obscene.
They were.
But, I mean, I still don't quite understand how she can claim to be... I think her point of law was that they said she was a liar.
That's right, yeah.
But all she'd been lying about was how old she actually was and whether she went to a private school, and that these things didn't actually seem hugely defamatory in the bigger scheme of things to me. But that's getting a little beyond the point of this. I think Rebel Wilson... I don't even think she's capable of playing a heavyweight role. I don't think she's funny in a comedic role. All she serves to be is when Hollywood needs a larger woman in the 30 to 40-year-old bracket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Preferably not in a comedic role, because she's not very good at it.
But that's all she does.
Yeah. She just did some non-comedic ones, though.
Well, clearly, I don't think she can, though, because she would be.
2.5 from me and 1 star from Sheridan, I believe.
1.
So what's next?
Glow Season 3.
Business is good. We've sold out for the next 2 weeks.
What do you think of Sandy?
She's the entertainment director.
Have a drink and play a little blackjack on us.
When we keep this up, then the 3 of us stand to make a lot of money here.
Maybe I can push the money into a pile the shape of my son.
Okay, well, I don't really know what to say to that.
So this is the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And this is them set up in Las Vegas. And this is such a mixed season, isn't it?
Ultimately, in the end, I really liked it. But I think there's a few problems with it. One is there's a lot of characters now.
Yeah, and they all get a lot of time.
Well, some of them get a lot of time.
Yeah. And as a series of extended character studies of women in the 80s, that's where I think it's at its best. In terms of the fact there was almost no wrestling...
That's a problem. That was one of my other issues.
Yeah, and a lot of it was the desperately tied weird trope of the show within a show, which is what theatrical people put on because they're much more interested in stories about shows than they are in stories about their subjects.
I mean, I really liked the episode so basically a lot of the characters in Glow are racial caricatures, which throughout the programming has been acknowledged as a problem of wrestling in the 80s. But it skirts a fine line because they're often making jokes in those characters. So one of the episodes that I think is the best is the one where they all switch the characters up. So, like, I can't remember, but
Liberty Bell plays Welfare Queen.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
One of the other white characters plays the Asian character. I can't remember what country she's from, but anyway. I think she plays
Vietnamese, but yeah.
She's Vietnamese and she plays a Chinese character in the show, but anyway.
Which she really hates, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. So, like, there's a lot of... they do discuss the racial element throughout the show, but I think that's actually one of the best episodes because it actually does explore what is a really problematic theme in wrestling.
To me, that episode and the Christmas Carol episode
The Christmas Carol episode I could have taken or leaving.
were very much to me more of let's make a show about putting on a show, and I find that really dull. I know that it's got a long tradition in theatre. I know that Shakespeare did it. I still find it tiresome and trite, and it's always lazy, and I feel that a show's lost its way when it falls into it. We never talked about Barry because we haven't quite ever finished watching it, but that's a show about a hitman that falls into just being a show about acting school. Similarly, this is meant to be a show about women trying to make a career in wrestling in the 80s, and ends up being another show about the theatre.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that sums up the whole season.
It doesn't sum up the whole season, but for me it sums up the weakest parts of the season, and I could have done with more time that was spent on the wrestlers performing theatre, and more time on the wrestlers doing wrestling.
That's the problem. There's not enough actual wrestling.
Yeah. And Glow has never been all about wrestling, and I'm not saying it ever should be, and I'm fine for being about the backstage of the wrestling. I just have a problem when it's a show about women wrestlers who don't wrestle.
Yeah. I thought too, I mean, I didn't mind the subplot with Sam's daughter, whose name in the show's eluding me. They basically try and write a movie together and want to get it produced. I mean, some elements of that I liked, like the father-daughter relationship, but I kind of felt like it went too far away from the main story, which was about a wrestling show.
Unless it's going to come back to wrestling, I'm really struggling with what the purpose of that is.
I was thinking that it was trying to show, because I mean at the moment the show is also equally about, well, it was for 2 seasons about television production in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I thought what they were trying to maybe do was show what film production was like at that time.
I think in terms of an exploration of the characters, and Sam's character has always been a really interesting one with lots of light and dark in it. I mean, lots of dark and a little bit of light for most of the rest of it. The bits where Sam is taking his daughter around Hollywood producers trying to shop her script, and these guys are in front of his daughter talking about how much they hate his guts because of what a piece of crap he's been, and going into the details of what sort of piece of crap he was in front of his daughter. That was brutal stuff. And also, I'm not going to spoil, but there is some more twists about Sam that are certainly very bittersweet. Yeah.
I thought the storyline, which we won't spoil as well, which with Rhonda and Bash's marriage breakdown, I thought that was actually a good, solid story throughout.
Yeah, I'm still trouble.
It was a bit soapy.
I'm having trouble coming to terms with Rhonda being Kate Nash. But,
yeah.
And I could deal... Actually, I always found Rhonda as the affectation of Englishness.
So now that you know that she's Kate Nash, you like...
I didn't like her as the affectation of Englishness to begin with, but I got that most of it was her putting on a show of what American audiences wanted an English person to be. And
but she's proper English.
I know she's proper English, but I prefer my Kate Nash singing songs that remind me of Lily Allen to my Kate Nash dressed up as a lady wrestler. But I did think that the storyline of her marriage to Bash was really an interesting story.
Again, quite a way away from the wrestling.
At least somewhat related to it, though, given that he's producing the shows and still having to MC the shows and things like that.
But it was solid. I thought Gina Davis makes a very awesome... It's not a cameo, it's a character.
Yeah, Gina Davis is amazing in this. And the scene where she comes out in full showgirl rig at the transgender ball, that was eye-catching.
She still got it.
And good on her.
It's just say I felt like going to the gym the next morning. I didn't, but I felt like it.
Well, what I liked about it was that it showed how much glamour and artifice there is in the showgirl outfit. In that the initial shot when the lights are dazzling off the diamantes, it's like, wow, she looks like some sort of goddess of sex. And then as the scene goes on, you realise where the control top pantyhose are straining.
It's still she's.
Yeah. I'm not saying she doesn't, but it's a 60-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was a deliberate decision. The way they just changed the lighting and the camera settings as that scene progressed, so that she went from being a vision of a sex goddess into being a 60-year-old woman again.
Yeah.
Still in the same outfit. Very cleverly done. And just even the recognition as a moment watching it, it's like, oh my god, there's a dazzling showgirl in Diamantes too. Oh, hang on. Wait a minute, that's that character. A great little piece of storytelling. In many ways, this whole season is 20 different little stories.
That's what I meant. That's what I think it's a positive and a negative, because there's a lot of characters at the moment and a lot of stories and a lot of plots that have been going now for 3 seasons that they're trying to tie up. And if you've watched it and you enjoy it, it's actually really, really enjoyable. I mean, we would always watch multiple episodes in a row.
Yeah.
It's actually like a really, really good soap opera.
Yeah, I would say the first 2 episodes we watched, and then we probably left the show alone for a couple of weeks.
That's true, yeah.
But so it does warm up as the season goes on.
And I like that there's a bit of social commentary in there, which makes me feel like I'm not just eating junk food. So like I do feel like, it's actually like an interesting show with interesting things to say, but it's still comforting enough that I can chill out to it.
Oh, just the coverage of transgender issues in the 1980s.
Or just gay issues generally as well. Like, LGBTQI+.
Isn't there an A in there these days?
Isn't that what the... Oh, no, I don't know. Where's the A?
It's at the end.
LGBTQIA+.
Yeah.
I thought that the A's were in the plus.
Well, you could just say plus and do away with the alphabet soup at the front.
Oh, maybe that's what needs to happen. Well, we can't dictate.
Well, we're not going to be the ones to sort that out. And on that note, thank you so much for your feedback on the subject of climate science last podcast. If you've got something to say, do send us an email to gmtrpodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment in any of the numerous social media that you might have come across us through. We can take comments on the website as well. How's that for
2019?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and reviews.
What?
Give them to us.
What do you mean?
Not you, the listeners.
I'm like, that's what I'm literally doing. That's what I've been doing.
No. Review us.
Review us.
It's the show within a show.
Right.
So open up your little Apple app that you're listening to us on, chances are, and drop us 5 stars. If you want to give us less than 5 stars, just don't bother.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
We just want 5 stars. I mean, 4 if you must, but really, come on, what are you chiseling us a star
I'm
for?
going to say I'd rather have a fair rating. I sit here every week and rate things, and I want to be rated fairly.
Okay, so in the comments, give Sheridan a personal rating.
Oh, God!
Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks, folks.
Hopefully we'll be back next week, and we'll be back at some point, and you can listen to us then. Cheers.